Hello there, and welcome to Year 3 of FernClan. This is part of a series, so if you haven't seen the previous episode, I recommend watching it. We've got a lot of new faces this year, especially in the nursery. FernClan currently has 7 kits. I'm excited for the future of this clan, as well as this series, so let's get into it. But first, I do have to once again give a trigger warning for death, including murder, as well as child neglect and abandonment. I do not describe anything in too much detail, but still proceed at your own risk. The first 2 deaths this year were Runnaldust and Smithgorse. Early in the year, Runnaldust admitted to Smithgorse that she had a crush on her. Even though Smithgorse felt the same, she just wasn't ready for a relationship. Runnaldust must have taken this rejection hard, because it wasn't long before she started hooking up with a cat from another clan and ended up getting pregnant. Despite the circumstances, all of FernClan was happy for her. Everything seemed to be going well, but something went wrong when she gave birth to her kits. While the kits turned out healthy, Runnaldust lost far too much blood and died. Smithgorse was devastated, fearing that it was her rejection of Runnaldust that indirectly led to this. But it wasn't long before Smithgorse followed. After killing a rogue to save Shrubpaw on a border patrol, the rest of the rogue group was out for her blood. It wasn't much later that Smithgorse went missing, and her body was found up a tree along that very border. Since being reunited in StarClan, Runnaldust and Smithgorse have cleared the air between them and are now mates. Next is a new face in the clan, Ravioli. He used to be a kitty pet, but one night a starry cat visited him in his dreams and encouraged him to leave his 2 legs and live in the wild. On his first day out, he tried to chase a squirrel up a tree, but his paw slipped and he fell. A FernClan patrol witnessed this and offered to bring him back to their camp to mend his injured paw, and he ended up becoming a permanent member of the clan. Towards the end of the year, he brought 3 kits into the clan. These kits were the result of a secret relationship he'd been having with a Lupine Clan cat, who feared her clan's reaction if they learned the truth of the kit's origin. Sadly, Ravioli barely got any time to get to know his kits. Less than a moon later, he followed the scent of a trespassing loner to the base of a nearby tree. The loner screeched at him and his patrol to run away, but before the clan cats could react, a dog lunged out of the bushes. It caught Ravioli between its jaws, swiftly killing him. He now watches over his kits from StarClan like their guardian angel. Finally, we tragically lost our first clan founder at the very end of this year. Wasp Nibble had a rough year. Early on, she was struggling to remember the names of herbs. Then she failed to realize that Runnaldust was losing too much blood after giving birth. Finally, her daughter, Smithgorse, was murdered by rogues. Towards the end of the year, Wasp Nibble started to feel unwell. She spent most of Leaf Bear in camp, not really doing much. But as the air began to warm up, she abruptly felt better one day and decided to go for a walk. She found a patch of sunlight and decided to rest in it, and she never woke up. She was found later that day by a patrol, curled up at the base of a tree near camp, with a content smile on her face. I'm glad she got a peaceful goodbye after such a long life full of pain and grief. Moving on to the living cats, FernStar still has all 9 of her lives. She's trying her best to be excited about how many kits are in the clan this year, but she's also stressed about other stuff that's going on outside of FernClan. Lupine Clan has become much more antagonistic towards everyone this year, which culminated in a war between Lupine Clan and Mole Clan towards the end of the year. FernClan was in constant danger of being roped into it, either from Mole Clan requesting backup or from Lupine Clan attacking them too. Thankfully, neither of these happened, but it was still a stressful period of time for everyone, especially FernStar. On a funnier note, she got sprayed by a skunk twice this year. She's very embarrassed about this and would prefer not to talk about it. Fringefleck has been matching Lupine Clan's hostile energy, which FernStar is not a fan of. Shortly after Ravioli brought his kits to FernClan, Fringefleck traveled alone to Lupine Clan's camp to tell their leader that FernClan was growing stronger by the day, and warned him not to mess with them. This action was not approved by FernStar, and it was an especially risky move, considering that the kits in question are half Lupine Clan, not that anyone knew this at the time. Curlfall is not coping well with being the only menacing cat. even though she had a feeling that Waspnibble was on her way out several moons in advance, and Waspnibble assured her many times that she was doing a good job at being a medicine cat, Curlfall still feels like she isn't ready to be on her own just yet. Even before Waspnibble's death, Curlfall had been considering taking on one of the clan's many kits as an apprentice. She still hasn't decided which one will be a good fit yet, though. She's hoping StarClan will give her a sign, but she also knows she should expect to have to make the decision herself anyways. The first of many new faces in the clan this year, here's Laurelblaze. He lived his entire life as a loner elsewhere along the lakeshore. This year, however, heavy greenleaf rains flooded his home. It wasn't the first time this has happened, but this time Laurel struggled to keep his head above the rushing water. Finally, deciding that enough was enough, he decided to see what else was out there. He wandered along the lakeshore for a few moons before coming across clan territory. Laurelblaze is still having trouble adjusting to living with other cats, but he's a great hunter and he's fun to have around. Bubbling Ash is another former loner. Originally named Bubbles, he used to live peacefully on the outskirts of clan territory, always taking great care not to cross the borders. The clan cats mostly left him alone, or struck up pleasant conversation whenever they crossed paths. But this year, something changed. The Lupine Clan patrols suddenly got much more hostile towards Bubbles. When one of them outright attacked him, he knew it was time to leave. He crossed the river and joined FernClan. Many of their members remembered him from when they used to be part of Lupine Clan, and welcomed him with open arms. He changed his name to Bubbling Ash to fit in with the clan cats. Daisy joined the clan at the very end of this year. He's cagey about his past, only stating that something terrible happened that made him leave his old home behind. He hasn't been in FernClan long enough to really do much of anything. I'm hoping to learn more about him. Swallowback is still a nervous mess. He was making a little bit of progress, but all of that was ruined when he discovered Smithgorse's dead body hidden up a tree, which still haunts him. At his warrior ceremony, he was honored for his vigilance, but I suspect it might just be the anxiety. On a brighter note, he had discovered that he has 3 littermates in Lupine Clan. Their names are Lambclaw, Mossybull, and Howlchomp. They're the kits of a now-deceased loner named Mumbai. But the question remains, why was Swallowkit alone given up to FernClan while his siblings remained in Lupine Clan? Since his sister is in the nursery right now, let's move right on to Shrubfreckle. He was honored for his fearlessness at his warrior ceremony, and it's good that he's fearless because he's had more brushes with death than a cat his age should. Most recently, he was on the patrol with Ravioli when they were attacked by the dog, and while Shrubfreckle survived, he was scarred and blinded in his right eye. While his wounds are healing well, he's not fully back to his warrior duties yet. Python Bubble has been teaching him some tricks she's learned over the past 2 years, but there are plenty of things he has to figure out on his own. He's feeling a bit of survivor's guilt, both over Smithgorse and Ravioli, but he's trying his best to keep up the happy attitude. This is especially important because he wants to be the fun uncle to his sister's new kit, who we'll get to later. Linkstripe was found alone at the edge of the territory at the very beginning of the year, when he was only 2 moons old. He insisted that his mommy would be back any minute, but the only other loner scent the patrol could pick up was faint, at least a few days old. Worried for the kit's safety out in the forest, they brought him back to camp despite his protests. Now that Linkstripe is grown up, he's realized that his mother just never wanted him, and left him in the forest to die. While he doesn't show it on the surface, he is furious about this. Link's Paw was originally Runnaldust's apprentice, but Fringefleck took over while Runnaldust was pregnant. It was only meant to be temporary, but then Runnaldust died. Fringefleck became Link's Paw's permanent mentor for the rest of his apprenticeship. Now, let's move on to the Elder's Den. Cicada Chaser's distrust of Fringefleck has lessened over the last year, although he still has his eye on her just in case. The kits in the clan have made a game of seeing how many objects they can stack on him while he sleeps. Whoever placed the object that finally woke him up loses the game. Cicada Chaser isn't sure why he's the only one they seem to play with this with, but he's flattered nonetheless. Python Bubble and Silver Clover have become very close this year. Python Bubble did at one point admit that she held romantic feelings towards Silver Clover, but Silver Clover doesn't feel the same way, so their relationship will remain strictly platonic. Lastly, for the elders, here's River Spots, who retired about halfway through the year. His antics have mostly stopped now, and he's focusing more on being a supportive grandpa to Curlfall, especially as she recovers from losing Wasp Nibble. River Spots is understandably worried about Lupine Clan's hostility, and despite being in the Elder's Den now, he's fully ready to defend the camp if needed. Finally, let's get to the many kits that FernClan has had this year. The oldest are Runnel-Dust's litter, who are very close to becoming apprentices. In their infancy, they were nursed by a loner, but the main parental figure in their life so far has been Applegale. They know he isn't their biological parent, but that doesn't matter. Galekit is an attention seeker that never sits still. His sister Dustkit is the complete opposite. She's polite, quick to make peace, and is generally the clan's perfect little girl. Both of them are very eager to become apprentices, and recently Galekit even tried to call a clan meeting to start his own apprentice ceremony. That's adorable, and I can't wait to see how they turn out when they grow up. Applegale has been relishing the Den Dad role, taking every excuse he can find to ditch his warrior duties in favor of hanging out with the kits. Some members of the clan think he needs to pick up the slack, though. Rush Kit is the biological kit of the loner who nursed Runnel-Dust's kits. She never actually joined FernClan. She lived in a hollow log on the territory, which is also where Runnel-Dust's kits spent the first moons of their life, since she refused to set foot in camp. That is, at least, until one day when FernClan woke up to find Runnel-Dust's kits and Rush Kit sitting in the middle of the camp. The queen was done nursing them, so she dumped them with the clan and disappeared into the night, never to be seen since. Rush Kit is a bit of a bully to the other kits, but hopefully he'll become nicer now that he's being raised by cats who actually want him around. Next up is Ravioli's kits, who are now being raised communally by the clan. Sap Kit is fearless and an avid playfighter. She's a bit stronger than her siblings, so sometimes she ends up being a bit rougher than she intends to be, but the others understand that it's all in good fun. Locust Kit is charming and never sits still. She's a bit of a goody two-shoes as well, although not as much as Dust Kit is. Icy Kit is an oddly observant attention seeker. Some cats, including his siblings, find him a little bit creepy, because he likes to just sit there, quietly watching people instead of playing. He also has a lot of questions about the world, and not all of them can be easily answered. The last two cats in this list are Ashen Whisker and her young son Gold Kit. Shortly before becoming a warrior, Ashenpaw failed to perform a basic move and immediately burst into tears, fearing that she would never be able to become a warrior. Despite this hiccup, Ashen Whisker was honored for her spirit at her warrior ceremony. She also continues to try to get Swallowback to open up more. She started to develop a bit of a crush on him, although she's not sure if he reciprocates. Little does she know that he actually does. Only a few moons after becoming a warrior, Ashen Whisker had a fling with a loner and ended up pregnant. She doesn't feel ready to be a mother. She's only 21 moons old after all, but she's dedicated to being the best mother she can be to her single kit. Gold Kit is unruly and confident with words. He too is a big pawful, and Ashen Whisker is always glad when her brother Shrubfreckle shows up to take Gold Kit on an adventure around the grotto that FernClan calls home. Before we properly move on to talking about the other clans, I first have to address the elephant in the room. In the spirit of show don't tell, I have decided to make this into an animatic. Storkstar, leader of Lupine Clan, led a patrol along their side of the river. The beginning of Greenleaf had brought several days of torrential rain, and Storkstar was keen on checking how much the water had risen. Unfortunately, the rain had made the riverbank extremely muddy and slippery, and the old leader lost his footing and plummeted into the water. His clanmates managed to pull him up, but it was too late. Storkstar's lungs had already filled with water, and by the time the medicine cats arrived on the scene, he had already lost his final life. They dragged his body back to camp. While the clan gathered around, Red Dash, the clan deputy, sat in the back of the crowd. His expression was blank, but a fire burned behind his eyes. He jumped to the top of the ridge where Lupine Clan holds its meetings, and called out to his grieving clanmates. With unsheathed claws, he proclaimed that he would usher in a new era for the clans. That evening, in the cave behind the sacred moonfall, Storkstar's spirit appeared before Red Dash and his medicine cat Dahlia Honey. Storkstar had a conflicted look on his face, as if he had learned things since arriving in StarClan that made him doubt the cat he had chosen as his successor. Still, he gave a life for loyalty to Red Star, the new leader of Lupine Clan. So yeah, Red Star is now the leader of Lupine Clan, and he let his true colors show as soon as he gained unchecked power over the clan. He is the reason for Lupine Clan's increased hostility this year, which ultimately led to a war with Mole Clan, when Red Star killed an apprentice that he claimed was trespassing. Mole Clan and Lupine Clan don't really share a border, though, so I have doubts about that. At least Red Star hasn't killed anyone in his own clan in several years, even if it is just to keep up the ruse that FernStar was the killer all along. There has been 2 murders in Lupine Clan this year, though, and the killer's identity is still unknown, but I'm pretty sure it's not Red Dash. Their new deputy is Marigold Light, who was originally a Ripple Clan cat who joined a few years ago with 2 young kits. She has never disclosed anything about her past or why she left her old clan, but at gatherings Ripple Clan always seems nervous that she's deputy now. The medicine cats are the same as before. Dahlia Honey probably grieved Storkstar the most out of any cat in the clan, and Lightning Leaf has had to pick up a lot of the slack. Lightning Leaf also tried to eat a bee this year? Not sure what's up with that. Oatstar has had a bad year. She prefers to resolve conflict peacefully, but Red Star forced her paw when he killed a Mole Clan apprentice in cold blood. Especially because that apprentice was Oatstar's own adopted kit. While the war is over now, tensions are still extremely high between the 2 clans. At one point during the year, Oatstar was captured by 2 Legs, and while she made it home only a few days later, she so far has been unable to remove the collar they put on her. She fears that it will make the other clans see her as weak. The former deputy Bugwhisker sadly died from eating tainted prey, and his mate, Spikestripe, is the new deputy. Spikestripe hasn't been in his role very long, and he got thrust into it at possibly one of the worst times, right in the middle of a war. He's trying his best to keep the clan safe, despite still grieving Bugwhisker. Dusk Freckle is still the only medicine cat, and he is excelling at his role despite the circumstances. He hopes to take on an apprentice soon, although there aren't any kits in the clan right now, so we'll have to wait a little while. Ripple Clan has been watching the drama unfold from a safe distance, and have overall had a pretty peaceful year compared to everyone else. While their camp did flood after the heavy rains at the start of Greenleaf, thankfully nobody was swept away. Auburn Star and Palefeather are both antagonistic towards Red Star, but they refrain from starting conflict because the safety of Ripple Clan comes first. Chestnut Stream and Shade Apple have been hard at work as usual. Chestnut Stream and Auburn Star have adopted a litter of kits who are now apprentices, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. Well, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed. I feel like I'm getting a lot better at writing these scripts. The script did, however, turn out a lot longer than the one for the last episode, so let me know whether you prefer more brief scripts or longer ones. I'm also planning some non-Warrior Cats videos now that I'm getting into the swing of doing YouTube. I have a whole original fantasy world that I've been developing for many years, and I've been thinking about doing some videos where I talk about the world building of that. Let me know what you think. FernClan isn't going anywhere anytime soon though, so don't worry. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!